to Today's America with your host, Don Zelikowski. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me here today at Today's America. This is Don Z, your host. Before we get started, I just wanted to thank everyone for all your support. Our following is growing like wildfire. We got a lot of followers just in a very short period of time. I've only done not very many podcasts with Today's America, but it's growing, and I really appreciate your support because it shows that you guys are interested. And we're talking about some of the major topics, the current events that are going on out there today. We're talking a lot of politics, just a lot of things like that. And I really appreciate your support and your following. The other thing I want to say is that I'd love to hear from you. I do a lot of my business via email, and our email at Today's America is today'samerica2015 at gmail.com. Okay, Today's America 2015 at gmail.com. If you got any suggestions for show ideas, or if you want to just chat with me, you got something that you don't agree with me on, or that you do agree with me on, I would love to hear from you. Maybe we could talk. Maybe you could even be on air with me, and we could do a nice recorded session, put it up on the web, and let everyone hear your opinion right along with mine. There's nothing good, or I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with some really good debate, because that's how we get issues and ideas out there in the open. And when you start doing that, that's when you start to solve problems, and you start to come up with solutions and stuff like that. So I would love to hear from you. Once again, it's Today's America 2015 at gmail.com. All right. So why don't we get talking about a couple things here? We have fallen out of. Well, let's put it this way, okay? When we went to invade Iraq, okay, one of the things we tried to do was install a Western-style democracy. Okay, so what is a Western-style democracy exactly? I mean, when you look out your window right now, what do you see as far as a Western-style democracy? All right, now it isn't what it used to be. All right, now I am a huge believer in voting. I believe that not only does your vote count, but if you do not vote, then you really don't have any right to complain. Now, you always have a right to complain, don't get me wrong, but if you're not going to vote, then you're not being part of the solution. All right, you're fostering a system that may be broken, or you're allowing a substandard candidate to take office. For example, you look at the midterm elections, traditionally, Democrats don't get out and vote in the midterms. Why? I have no idea. We're fucking stupid, apparently, because we allow, these radical right-wing extremist Republicans to take office and take over the Senate, take over the House, all that kind of stuff. So, I fail to see how that's helping America progress. That's not to say there aren't good Republicans out there. I'm sure there are. If I ever find one, I will let you know. But you got to get out there and vote. That's a huge part of things. But I also believe, though, that our votes don't count as much as they used to. Okay. Unfortunately, there was a thing in 2010 called Citizens United where the right-leaning Supreme Court of the United States ruled that a corporation has a voice in our election process, in our politics. Now, I understand, there's always been lobbyists, there's always been people doing favors for this corporation, that corporation, in turn for, some campaign money, whatever. Okay, now I don't agree with that, but it's always been there, but never to this extreme. Okay, and tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few examples of this. Now, in the last podcast, I mentioned a website called MapLight. Okay, and there's also another one called Open Secrets that's a really good resource for looking at financial disclosures, net worth, all kinds of information that you would probably want to know about the candidates and the incumbents that you may or may not be voting for. Okay, now if you're broke and you're struggling to get by, and you look up some of this information, you see that your representative that you like, that you want to vote for, does not have your best interest in mind when he's voting on bills and legislation, because he's being paid by different industries to vote yes or no on certain things, regardless of whether that benefits you or not and your family. Why would you vote for him? Why would you put that person back into office? Okay, so we're going to look at a couple things here that that really are really disturbing. Okay, so we're just going to pick out one vote or one piece of legislation that went through the Senate. Okay, went through the Senate on March 4th of 2015, and this was Senate Bill 1. It was apparently, looks like maybe it was the first bill of the 114th Congress, possibly. Anyway, it was the Keystone XL Pipeline Approval Act. Okay. For those of you not familiar, the Keystone Pipeline, or the Keystone XL Pipeline, was proposed in order to pump the Alberta tar sands oil down from Canada all the way through the heartlands and end up pumping it into, I believe, Louisiana. But the environmental groups and animal rights groups and consumer groups, a lot of these people, or a lot of these groups that fight to keep clean air, to keep us breathing clean air and drinking clean water and all that kind of stuff. The pollution prevention groups, they fought really hard to try and get this bill voted down, and it actually was voted down. So, I'm sorry, I believe it was passed. However, the president vetoed it. So, regardless, that's of no concern to this podcast. But basically, that pipeline, we've seen ruptures in the past in other pipelines in the United States, and they caused millions and millions and millions of dollars of damage. They not only to the land, but to drinking water, to wildlife, to people, whatever. Now, we're talking about a pipeline here that would have spread north to south all the way across the United States of America. A rupture here or there could have been disastrous to the aquifers, the drinking water, tons of different types of wildlife, the environment, everything. Okay, and the tar sands oil, for those of you that don't know, is probably the dirtiest oil that is out there. Okay, this is before it's refined and all that stuff and turned into gasoline or plastic or whatever. Um, so, this was a huge topic for debate because um, the Republican leadership was out in force every day talking about how this was going to create jobs and so on and so forth. Okay, the facts of it are it would have created jobs for a couple of years. But once the pipeline was built, they would have maintained very, very few jobs. As a matter of fact, I believe the number was under 100. Okay, so for them to talk about this being a serious jobs bill, I don't believe so. A serious jobs bill, to me, would be something that creates permanent jobs. Okay, so, but that's my opinion. I'm sure you guys have yours. So, to create jobs for a couple years, that would have been great for people. Would have been great. But there's other ways to do that, and that's a different podcast. So, anyway, if you go to maplight.org and you search for the Keystone XL Pipeline Approval Act, okay, take a look at that. And maybe you can look it up, okay? There are, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a couple different tabs. One's total contributions. Another one is contributions by vote. And then there's a timeline of contributions, okay? So, the one that I'm going to focus on is contributions by vote. All right, now, if you look at the industries that are supporting this bill, and then there's also a column for the industries that are opposing the bill. Now, I already told you the industries that are opposing the bill: the environmental policy, minority and ethnic groups, animal rights groups, consumers groups, and so on. Okay, there's a few churches, clergy, religious organizations, so on and so forth. Let's look at who's supporting the bill. Republicans and conservatives groups. Electric power utilities, industrial commercial equipment materials, public works, industrial and commercial construction. There were building trades unions supporting this. And like I said, would it create jobs for a couple of years? Yeah, absolutely. And it would have been trade unions or skilled tradespeople that would most likely have been in these jobs to build this pipeline. Okay, so obviously the trade unions supported this, rightfully so, because it would have created jobs for a couple of years. All right, no long-lasting jobs, but short-term jobs. Okay, in order to create and build this pipeline. Oil and gas industry, steel industry. Let's see, plastic and rubber processing and products industry. All right, so you get the gist of it, right? All right. So, of all these industries, okay, now keep in mind, there's 100 senators, right? 100 senators. Of all these industries, all right, the average amount of money that was given to a senator who voted yes, I hope you're sitting down. The average amount of money was $599,441. Okay, that was for a yes vote. That was the average. All right. Now, it's not just the yes votes. It's not just these industries that pay. All right. The industries that I spoke of that opposed the bill, they paid for no votes. Okay. Their average was $133,965. All right, so let's see, almost 600 grand for a yes vote, 133 grand for a no vote. Okay, from two different sides, two different industries or types of industries. Okay, yes, no, yes vote and a no vote. Depending on who opposed and who supported the bill. All right. So, if you scroll down a little bit, you can look at each legislature. It's got all 100 senators listed here. It's got their party affiliation, what state they're from. Okay. Now, here's why our political system has created a bunch of fucking whores. All right. Because you cannot. There are very, very few of the people in this list. Keep in mind, there are 100 U.S. senators. There are very, very few people that took money from for a yes vote or a no vote, but did not take money for a different vote. Okay, so for example, let's see, John Barrasso, Republican from Wyoming. Okay, you see him on the news sometimes. The groups that were interested in supporting this bill paid him $348,150 for him to vote yes, which he voted yes on this bill. The groups that opposed him did not pay him anything. Okay, so he didn't deal with any groups that opposed the passing of this legislation. All right. Now, to me, he voted one way. He voted yes, and he didn't take money from any of the groups that opposed this legislation. Okay, so for example, he didn't go to these animal rights groups and say, "Hey, look, if you throw a little money my way, I'd consider voting no." Okay, he didn't do that. At least the proof is in the pudding here with the zero amount of money that was given to him from animal rights groups. Okay, so maybe he did it and just didn't get any money, but for our example here, he took $0. Let's look at Kelly Ayotte. She's a Republican from New Hampshire. You see her standing behind John Boehner at every one of his press conferences. Okay, she took $443,377 for her yes vote from groups that supported this legislation. She also took $10,000 from groups that opposed the legislation. Okay, now I'm not calling her a whore because she's a woman. There's plenty of male whores on here, and I'll give you plenty of examples. There's Republicans and Democrats that took money from both interest groups, ones that supported and ones that opposed, regardless of what their vote was. They took money. Okay, let's look at Barbara Boxer. She's a Democrat from California. She took $309,000 from groups that supported this legislation and $237,000 from groups that opposed it, and she voted no. She took more from interest groups that supported the legislation, and she still voted no. So, I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. Let's get down to some of the big hitters. Ted Cruz, Republican out of Texas. He obviously voted yes because he's in the pocket of the Koch brothers and big oil and pollution. His payment for his yes vote was $2,125,174. He accepted $2,050 from groups that opposed it. Okay, so for his one vote, he was paid $2 million for his yes vote. Patrick Toomey, Republican from Pennsylvania, he was the highest one on here, $2,156,065 for his yes vote. And he also took $21,550
from groups that opposed it, even though he voted yes. Okay? If that's not a whore, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I must not know the definition of a whore. For these guys to solicit on both sides and then vote the way that they know they're going to vote, but still accept money from these other groups, it's absurd to me. All right, but that's not the real point of what we're talking about here. All right. Now, when you go to the polls or when you think about the legislation that's affecting your life, how can you be comfortable with the fact that maybe you live in Ted Cruz's district or his area there in Texas? How can you be comfortable with knowing that maybe that pipeline could possibly ruin your drinking water, but he's getting paid $2 million to vote to install that pipeline? Now, does he have your best interest at heart? Or does he have the oil and gas industry's best interest at heart when they're willing to pay him $2 million for his vote? Okay. Now, is that what democracy looks like? That's not democracy. That's pure and simple. That's an oligarchy. We talked about that the other day in the last podcast. It's government in which a small group exercises control, especially for corrupt and selfish purposes. That's what it is. I mean, what better way to prove that definition? That's not democracy. Okay, so now let's shift our gears a little bit. Let's look at all of the candidates right now. And I can't even list them all out. I mean, on one side you got Trump, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Jeb Bush, Carly Fiorina, Ben Carson, Rick Perry, Bobby Jindal, Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee. I probably left out 10 of them, right? On the other side, you've got Martin O'Malley, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Lincoln Chafee, possibly Joe Biden coming up. Okay. Can you name me a candidate that is opposed to all this money that's influencing our politics? Any of them? Can you name me one? Okay. It's a pretty easy question. And the answer, obviously, there is one candidate, and that candidate is Bernie Sanders. None of the other candidates are for taking money out of politics. They're just not. And why? Because they're making too much money with this current system that we have. The Citizens United ruling pretty much allows unlimited amounts of money to be funneled into the pockets of these candidates. Okay, now, there are rules on how they can spend it, but come on, okay? When you're getting $2 million for one vote, I mean, even within the rules, I'm pretty fucking sure I could figure out how to spend that goddamn money. That would benefit me, okay? And I'm sure you could too. That is a lot of money. That's more money for one vote than most of us will ever make in our lifetime working 30, 40, 45, 50 years at our jobs. Okay? And that's one vote. That was one day, one vote. He voted on March 4th, 2015. Okay? One day. $2 million for one vote. And that vote was cast whether he fucked you or not. Okay? He doesn't care because he got paid $2 million. Now, the same can be said for all these other people that accepted all kinds of money. Okay? On behalf of this bill. Okay? So, the system is corrupt. And when you have a corrupt system like this and you allow it to grow and you allow it to multiply, whatever, whatever fucking word you want to use, it's corrupt. It is corrupt. And we got to get rid of it. Okay? Now, like I said, there's one candidate and one candidate only in this race that is for getting rid of this money. And that's Bernie Sanders. Okay? The word's got to be spread. All right? If you truly want these people that are supposed to be working for us to actually work for us, then we need to make a fundamental shift in the way we do, or in the way that our political process works. That's just all there is to it. And I'm not going to say that Bernie's going to do all the right things. Okay? But this guy has fought from day one, since he's been in the Senate, since he's been in politics. He's fought from day one for the best interests of the people that he represents. Now, this list of 100 people here, and I'm sure I can pull up the list of all the representatives from the House of Representatives. I'm not sure I'd be able to find another person that specifically goes out of their way to represent the people that have elected them. Okay? So, keep that in mind. Educate yourself. Go to berniesanders.com. Learn about his platform. Okay? See what he's wanting to do. As a matter of fact, he's getting ready to introduce legislation to make all campaigns publicly funded. Now, I'm waiting to see the details on that, so I'm not going to speak about that, but it's going to basically allow anybody to run for office without, and run an equal race and a fair race with their opponents without having to beg for big money from huge campaign donors and everything. It's basically going to fizzle out Citizens United. Okay, so, but like I said, I don't know all the details on it. We're going to have to wait and see what he comes up with. But it's got to be better than what we fucking have now. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, this is nuts. This is absolutely fucking crazy that we have allowed this to happen. This is not democracy, folks. This is not democracy. For the people that are out there listening that are, you're conservative, you're right, you're right-leaning, whatever, you're the guy that posts on your Facebook page to take this country back and, oh, my freedom's this and then bullshit, okay? If you want to take your country back, then you need to eliminate money in politics, period, okay? You want to take your country back, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your legislatures are governing with your best interest in mind. And that's it. Okay? We want people that are going to govern with our best interest in mind. That's what democracy looks like. Okay? That's what true democracy looks like. All right? We do not need to be an oligarchy or a plutocracy, which is government run by the wealthy, of and for the wealthy. All right? 99% of us are not wealthy. Okay? 99%. Why do we want a government that represents 1% of us? Okay? It doesn't make any fucking sense. So, if there are some of you out there that are listening that are right-wing or right-leaning conservative Republicans, that's great. That's great. I'm glad you vote, okay? But what I would ask you to do is learn some things, educate yourself, and if you need to, pull your fucking ass, your head out of your ass. Okay? Think about some of this stuff. Think about who your representatives are really, really representing. Is it you? Because if it isn't, then you need to make a change. Okay? If you don't, and you're not willing to make a change, then you are part of the problem. Okay? So, sorry. I didn't mean to preach, but this kind of stuff gets a little frustrating for me, too. It's very frustrating knowing that we can do much better, and seeing that maybe we're not willing to. All right? And I know we're willing to. I got confidence in us. We are a great nation of great people, and I know that we are going to make some changes, and we're going to make some changes for the better. So, once again, our email address is today'samerica2015@gmail.com. Please shoot me an email. I hope I didn't offend anybody tonight, but if I did, shoot me an email. Let me know, and maybe we can discuss some things. If I missed some stuff, or if I'm, for whatever reason you think my information is not accurate, email me. Please do so. I would love to hear from you. Once again, some of these websites that you can check these things out at are maplight.org, maplight.org. Another one is opensecrets.org. Okay, those two will tell you a lot of information about the guys that are governing us. All right, so I'm gonna let you go. You guys have a great night. And I know traditionally I send you out with with some music. Tonight I'm gonna do the same thing. If you guys, once again, email me. If you got some requests for some music to exit these podcasts, please let me know, because I'm more than willing to oblige. All right. So I want you to enjoy this one. This is Bob Seger. All right, the Silver Bullet Band. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining Today's America. Good night.